What's up, everybody? My name is Big Cam and welcome back to another movie review. And this movie was 2025's Train Dreams, now streaming on Netflix. And I watched this ahead of the Oscars that came out on Sunday. And I did an Oscar winner breakdown video on my Weekly Nerdy News podcast yesterday, so go check that out if you haven't already. But this film, I initially had said in my review that this was my sleeper pick for the Oscars. Now, unfortunately, it was not acknowledged at the Oscars and didn't win any awards, but it was nominated, and I think Joel Edgerton did a fine job as this logger. You know, he's like somebody chopping down trees out in the middle of the woods, and like it showed just how much loggers built society and expanded society across the US, you know, and had them building wooden train bridges, and then eventually they started working with steel in the future, and then the bridge that they made out of wood became obsolete, and he's on a train further up the river, and it's, you know, saving them more time to use that train. But like, they got across America by wooden bridges and by wood, and that's how everything was built. They built houses out of wood, you know, and like everything, you know, so it was almost, for the video game people out there, it was almost Red Dead Redemption time, right? Like that era of things, but you're not a cowboy, you know, bad guy. You're a logger, and you're just like living with this guy's story. And like, you know how in plays, like especially like Shakespeare, they say everything's either a comedy or a tragedy. This movie, you know, it doesn't have a whole lot of funny elements in it. It has a lot of heart and a lot of like just tragic moments for this guy's life. But there was something so compelling about it, and I think the cinematography, it was square. Like, so you know how it's normally wide shot and there's black bars on top and bottom? This was square, so there was black bars on the sides. But every shot, it was like the focus puller pulled it to 10 and then cranked it to 21. You know what I mean? Like, didn't even just crank it to 11. Like, it felt like every image was so sharp, and the color was so, like, it was almost like they didn't need visual effects at all in this film, and then every image they enhanced so that it looked incredible. And there was just something about it, like, I couldn't take my eyes off of it. And it's, you know, 102 minutes, so what, it's like an hour 45-minute movie, not a crazy runtime either, you know. So a movie like this, I was expecting 2.5 hours of stalemate and just being like, Jesus Christ, when will this end? You know, like, compared to this or Hamnet, I enjoyed Train Dreams so much more. You know what I mean? I think I would have liked Hamnet more if there was some more actors in it that I recognized. You know, other than the Jesse Buckley and Paul Mescal, I didn't really recognize a whole lot of people from that film. But in here, we get Felicity Jones is Gladys, who's like his first wife. And then we get people like William H. Macy's in there for a quick second. You're like, wait a second, what? I know him. And then later in the movie, we have, what's her name? Kerry Condon shows up. And I was like, oh my God, I like her too. You know, and like Kerry Condon's character and Joel Edgerton's character at a certain point in the film, they're both widowers. So like at a moment I was like, oh, are they gonna hook up? But like Joel Edgerton's character's too good a man, and like he lost his wife and daughter to a forest fire, and he still has faith that one day she will return. You know what I mean? Like, in that they're just lost, and they're not dead or gone or burned or killed. You know what I mean? They're out there somewhere, and they're gonna return. So he doesn't move on and resettle and remarry and create a new family, which is an option, you know. Or there's an option where you're sad and you just live in that sadness and that grief, and, you know, just like Vision said to Wanda, what is grief if not love persevering? You know, so that's what this guy was living with. He was living with all that grief, but his love for his family, his wife and his daughter was persevering. And this guy spent so much time cutting down trees and logging and doing all this work to provide for his family, and he was away from home, and the only place he ever wanted to be was home. You know what I mean? Like, oh, it was devastating stuff, but it was beautifully shot. So it was my sleeper pick for Best Picture. Like, I thought, oh, maybe this slides in and wins. Unfortunately, that's not really going to happen anymore at the Oscars. It feels like over the last couple of years, there's been two like big, oh, this is gonna win or this is gonna win, and it was only like last year where like a Nora swept in one. You know what I mean? Even though I think Dune Part 2 should have won last year. But, you know, Train Dreams, I had like a brief inkling that I was like, oh, maybe this sneaks in as like a little sleeper pick for Best Picture. But that wasn't the case, and they didn't end up winning anything. But I thought maybe for Best Cinematography it should have won. But I'm also really glad that Sinners won for Best Cinematography, because there was some shots in Sinners that were absolutely freaking gorgeous. And like, even just like the final shot in Sinners where the guy burns up into a fire tornado, like that was mostly CGI, and even so it looked incredible, you know. And like the score, like it really kills me that Best Picture went to One Battle After Another. And like, maybe I need to revisit One Battle After Another, and like, I think it's good, but I think Sinners is the absolute most diabolical film of the year. Like, it is the Best Picture, bar none. Can't even describe how much it's the Best Picture of the year, you know what I mean? But the Letterboxd synopsis for this movie reads, a logger leads a life of quiet grace as he experiences love and loss during an era of monumental change in the early 20th century in America. So, honestly, I think I did a pretty good job of explaining that before I even read that synopsis. I think I was pretty close in my explanation myself, so pat myself on the back. But yeah, Joel Edgerton, Felicity Jones, you know, and there's some other people in here, of course, too, and most of the people are like loggers and stuff throughout it. Will Patton's the narrator, but like William H. Macy's character, when he came into it, I was like, God damn, William H. Macy, what are you doing to me? You're making me sad. You know, like, and then Kerry Condon's character came into it, and I was like, why is her voice so Irish and so thick with her, like her brogue, like her accent is so thick, but she's so beautiful, and I can't get enough of Kerry Condon and everything she's been in. Like, and it's funny because she's been in Infinity War, Endgame, and Spider-Man Homecoming, and you're like, huh? I don't remember her being in those. I'm pretty sure she voices Friday, you know, like the AI in their headsets. Also in Civil War and Avengers Age of Ultron. So Friday is the voice in Tony Stark's head for a while, and then in Spider-Man's head. But Kerry Condon in The Banshees of Inisherin in 2022, absolutely hilarious film, you know, and like serious and very good film, Banshees of Inisherin. But I laughed so hard at that film. I don't know if it was just Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson in that film, but I absolutely loved them so much. But like, it's also the dialogue, like they come up to each other. Have you been rowing? I don't think so, we've been rowing. It sounds like you've been rowing. And like, rowing is fighting. Have you been fighting? I don't think we've been fighting. It sounds like you've been fighting. And like, my name is Podrick Solomon, and I'm nice, you know, like there's parts in that movie that live rent-free in my head. Oh, the Banshees of Inisherin, so good, man. She was also in F1 early this year, so Kerry Condon there, a part of two different Best Picture nominations in 2025, F1 and Train Dreams, so good for her. And much like F1, the score I gave this on Letterboxd is a 4 out of 5 stars, about an 8 out of 10. And if I had to give it a true 10 score, it's probably like an 8-1. You know, it's like a low 8, but it hit that 4 out of 5 star mark for me, where I was like, I am shocked how much I liked this movie. You know, like I wasn't expecting to like it. And then I loved it, and I was like, wow, this is great. You know, don't you love when you get a little unexpected, like, oh, hey, I ended up really liking that. Good for that movie. It won me over. You know, like that type of shit. But, yeah. So I'd love for you to go and check this movie out on Netflix yourself if you haven't already. And if you have seen it, comment below your thoughts. I'd love to hear those thoughts. And if you haven't seen it, I'd still like to hear your thoughts. You know, maybe you judge the book by its cover and it was like, Train Dreams? Huh? I'm not interested in trains. You know, like I thought the same thing. Train Dreams doesn't really have anything to do with the movie. You know, if anything, it should have been called Plane Dreams, because if you guys know, by the end of the movie, you know, and he's grieving, he's fully depressed, he takes a train and he leaves and he like gets on a plane and he flies around and thinks like he's soaring like a bird, you know, like, yeah, you know. And I was actually in tears at this moment when the guy gets in the plane and he's like flying around like he's a bird, you know, and like feeling so free and weightless and like feeling like you just can fly, you can do anything. And I was in tears because I was thinking about it like, imagine you've never seen a plane, right? You've only ever seen the ground. You've barely seen a train, right? So you've been on trains, you've been going into the middle of the woods, just chopping down trees. Like, you rarely even get to see the sky because it's covered in trees, you know what I mean? And then once you see the sky, it's only because you chopped down all the trees. And like, you know, finally he gets to sit in this airplane, take a little airplane ride, and he's experiencing that for the first time. And I was like, oh man, what that must have felt like to be, you know, just a boots on the ground type of guy, and then just be flying high above the trees that you once were cutting down. I was like, what a beautiful way to like wrap up this film. And like, yeah, I thought I was thoroughly surprised by Train Dreams and thought maybe it should have got recognized at the Oscars last night. But I feel like out of all the Best Picture noms, Train Dreams was the one that people were like, I don't know if I can get behind that one. I'm not really into locomotives, you know, like just purely judging the book by the cover, you know what I mean? And I did it too, but then I still, there's something in me where like I judge the book by its cover, but then like I still watch it, you know, like even if, like some people hear spoilers and then they're like, oh, you ruined the film, I'll never watch it now because it got ruined for me. I don't think anything or anyone could ever ruin something for me. You know, either I can ruin it for myself or, you know, it just can't get ruined. You know, like, because even if I know the spoilers going into it, I still know it out of context and I haven't seen it with my own eyes. So like there's knowing and then there's seeing. You know what I mean? Like if you told me the plot of Avengers Endgame and told me how it ended with Tony Stark snapping his fingers, okay, that's great. I still want to see it. You know, like I still want to feast. Like if you told me aliens exist, that's great. I still want to see it. You know what I mean? So I don't know. That's how I feel about spoilers. But I'm sorry if I spoiled this for you in any way. I don't think so. I talked about stuff, but I like to talk about it, but also leave it vague enough that you can go check it out for yourself and appreciate it and enjoy. And I hope that's what you do. But if you've made it this far into the video and you would like to tell me your thoughts about this movie down in the comment section below, or you can send them to me on my other social medias, links for those down in the description below. And if you would like to support this channel and you've made it this far, the best way of doing that is dropping a like on this video, commenting down in the comment section below, hitting share, hitting copy link, sending it to somebody, share it with your friends, or just hit share, copy link. That goes a long way too. Subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that bell so you don't miss future movie reviews and you get the notifications when those come out. And make sure you guys stay tuned tomorrow for another Oscar Best Picture nominee, and we'll be doing a review for Marty Supreme. So stay tuned for that, y'all. Once again, my name's Big Cam, and I'll see you gorgeous folks in the next one. Peace.